Images of chaos in 4 different locations across Sierra Leone, mostly in 2020, one of the most violent periods in the country's recent history. Lonsar in the Potloko district on April 30th, Tombo in the western area rural on May 6th, Makeni in the Bambali district on July 18th, and then in Freetown on August 10 this year. All these events had one thing in common: the role played by disinformation, misinformation, and other forms of fake news in stirring up emotions and provoking 4 of the most violent clashes between citizens and security forces in the country. A combined total of at least 3 dozen lives were lost and properties worth hundreds of millions of leones destroyed as a result. These incidents are a sad illustration of the danger posed by fake news, which accountability campaigners say requires a proactive approach to deal with.
Basically, we've seen a spike in conversations online, internet penetration and access to mobile across Africa. And in the West African sub-region, we've also seen how democracy seems to be taking the back burner, or it's being challenged more or less, with several toppling of democratic governments in the sub-region. And if you look at the mix of reasons that contribute to this, the weaponization of misinformation online also is playing a role in this.
FactSpace West Africa, a leading fact-checking organization, is leading this initiative in the sub-region in collaboration with local partners to equip media practitioners and other key players involved in the information ecosystems to help counter the growing influence of fake news. The group conducted a one-day training on fact-checking last week for senior journalists in Sierra Leone as part of efforts to promote accountability journalism. 20 journalists, among them publishers, editors, TV and radio station managers, were introduced to the basic principles of fact-checking and the tools needed to prevent or counter their spread. FactSpace West Africa operates in line with the International Fact-Checking Network Code of Principles, which is a series of commitments organizations abide by to promote excellence in fact-checking. As an IFCN verified organization, FactSpace West Africa's goal is to ensure ready access to credible information, increase public knowledge, train youth, and grow a budding community of fact-checkers in the sub-region. The organization is presently focused on Ghana and Gambia. Its plans is to extend its focus to Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Nigeria, all of which are heading for crucial elections next year. This training on Friday, November 18th, was part of a 2-nation project. Al-Hassan and fellow trainer Enoch Nyariki first flew into Liberia, where they conducted similar training. Part of the sessions in the Freetown training, which was conducted at the New Brooksfields Hotel in the west end of the city, involved an interactive session designed to sound the views of the participants on factors fueling fake news in the country. The concerns ranged from refusal by officials to respond to media requests for clarification, to sometimes deliberate attempts by officials themselves to spread fake news for nefarious political reasons.
What worries me most is the fact that the reason why sometimes fake news thrives, especially when we have to deal with information that relates to government, there is almost always an information vacuum. And because there is almost always an information vacuum, what perhaps a certain government agency or institution should have released, when they are releasing that information, they will be on the defensive now, trying to correct a certain fake publication. As media people, the challenge we have is, even when we want to verify, I see something, for example, if it's about the security forces, I will call police. Half of the time they either have no idea, or half of the time they don't even want to respond. This goes with almost every government institution. So it makes our job extremely difficult, and we have to put information. Obviously, we always prefer to put out the correct information, but we are also, this is the context of our information ecosystem. We want to verify, we want to fact check before we go on air or before we print tomorrow, but no one is willing to talk to you because either they don't know or they are not willing to talk.
Nyariki, an experienced fact-checker originally from Kenya, flew in from the US state of Florida to conduct the training on behalf of IFCN, alongside Mr. Al-Hassan, who is based in Ghana, where FactSpace West Africa is headquartered. Both countries are far ahead in the experience of fighting dis and misinformation using fact-checking. Nyariki, a former managing editor of PesaCheck, Kenya's and Africa's leading fact-checking organization, now heads the Community and Impact Program of ICFN, which is an initiative of the Pointers Institute, a global non-profit dedicated to journalistic excellence.
The threat of mis and disinformation is very real, as we've rightly noted. Trust in institutions, trust in the media is declining worldwide, and that actually spells chaos, because now people don't have a baseline, don't have a place where they agree on before going into debates. And misinformation can cause real world harm. Someone can start a fake rumor on an important issue, so spreading false information to, for example, call on people to go to the streets. Someone can start a false claim about health, let's say COVID or vaccines, and that can make people to a state taking the right decisions or about vaccines, for example. So the threat of misinformation, or as others call it, fake news, is very real, and it can even destroy our democracy. So that's why it's important for all journalists and members of the public to have media literacy skills to be able to slow down the spread of this bad information.
And from Nairobi, via a video link, Eric Mugendi, another Kenyan, shared the Kenyan experience dealing with fake news as program manager for Africa at Midan, a not-for-profit technology outfit that helps strengthen journalism, digital literacy, and accessibility of information on and offline. With their general elections fast approaching, the stakes become higher for both Liberia and Sierra Leone, amidst compelling signs of the potential for violence. Emmanuel Toure, Director of Information in the Ministry of Information and Communication, notes that as a victim of fake news, government is a foremost beneficiary of this training.
We all know everything points at the executive and the public service as a whole. The period at which we are coming, that's the time for real propaganda or misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. So we really need to tackle it.
The rapid proliferation of citizen journalism has made it increasingly difficult for the public to tell verified news from the unverified ones. But Sarah Van Horn, Public Affairs Officer at the U.S. Embassy in Freetown, believes the consequence of this can be prevented with concerted efforts.
I believe that countering disinformation is one of the most important challenges that we as modern democracies are facing right now, so that's why I was so happy to see that this workshop was being organized. It's also a topic that's very near to my heart because although I'm not a journalist myself, my job has some key areas in common with your noble profession. First of all, our jobs both involve explaining complex issues to diverse audiences. As journalists, your job is to keep your audiences informed about their government, environment, economy, society, and culture. And for me, as a spokesperson of the United States, my job is to help citizens of other countries better understand the American people and to better understand US policies. Second, our reputations depend on truth and accuracy. If you report on information that is not accurate, your credibility as a professional journalist comes into question. You're only as good as your word. As I know, as a spokesperson of the US government, my words are under immense scrutiny. Promoting false information on behalf of the US government would reflect poorly not only on me personally, but also on the credibility of the United States. And lastly, but most importantly, our roles are integral to functioning democracy and open societies. What makes democracies unique is that they are held accountable to their citizens, unlike other forms of government. A government can only be held accountable if citizens have access to accurate information from independent and professional journalists.
Fact-checking is a relatively new phenomenon in Sierra Leone, and for Ahmed Said Nasrallah, president of the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, This initiative is a boost for efforts already in motion to tackle the threat posed by fake news through public education and reinforcement of professionalism among media practitioners.
SLAG is preparing to be at the center to ensure that we counter disinformation and fake news around the elections, and we're already in negotiations with the National Democratic Institute to fund a project that will counter disinformation around the elections. And so this one training is very timely, and it will help journalists who have come here to have the knowledge. This has also given us the opportunity to start some kind of partnership with this kind of organization so that we continue to strengthen our capacity to verify and fact-check news. We know that during the elections, that is when we have the highest incidence of fake news and misinformation and disinformation going around. And so we have to prepare ourselves, prepare our journalists, and SLAG has to be at the center to ensure that we serve as the hub where the public will go to verify information and to get the correct information.
FactSpace West Africa collaborated with the Media Reform Coordinating Group to organize this training, which brought journalists from all 6 regions of the country. Dr. Francis Soa, Executive Director of MRCG, says while the goal is to fact-check information as and when they are spread, the new trend emphasizes on proactive approach, and journalists, he notes, must first ensure to set example in their own newsrooms.
The aspect of fact-checking in the initial days will wait for the wrong content to have been published or broadcast, and then we start to fact check. It is still being done today. However, the new direction or the new approach is what we are here to do. We are doing today. That is, leaders of media institutions, editors, managers, producers are in the business of checking content even before they are published or broadcast. So to some extent, it adds to the editorial role or roles you play as gatekeepers within those media institutions. So if we're able to get it right before the content is broadcast or produced, particularly the ones that are coming from us, there will always be fact-checking for those ones that will come from external sources, those claims that will be made from external sources. But what will be disheartening, like the director was saying, is those errors, those erroneous things that will come from us as media institutions.
Dr. Soa adds that they expect the participants to cascade the knowledge gained from this training down to the grassroots through their work as heads of their newsrooms.
It is our expectation that you go back and put into practice the things you have learned. Among other things, we'll expect them to have a kind of fact-checking system or a desk within their media institution. That is one. We also expect those who have come from the provinces and even here in Sierra Leone to share this knowledge they have acquired within Freetown and also in the regions. And also, more importantly, we think they should continue to network, because networking is a way forward. Continue to network among themselves here in Sierra Leone and also with brilliant colleagues who have come from Ghana and Kenya, and of course the wider space. So those 3 things are important for me. 1, having the fact-checking decks. 2, passing on knowledge to others. And 3, ensuring that they create that network and the network continues to thrive.
Richard Gevau is already aware of what to do.
This training is important and timely because we have been properly positioned to return back as ambassadors for different radio stations with this knowledge. So we'll go back and train our staff and position them properly. We want to assure that we'll go back as ambassadors, replicate this knowledge, make sure we have more trained journalists in fact-checking, because with fact-checking we'll make gains. We'll have a positive role in dispensation of our duties across the country.